Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Ham and Spam Retro Review, the podcast where we like to review retro games, movies, TV shows, and everything in between.
Check us out on all the social medias, including Twitter, where you can find us at Ham and Spam Games, Instagram, which is also at Ham and Spam Games, Facebook at Ham and Spam, and even YouTube. Just search Ham and Spam Retro Review. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ham and Spam Retro Review. I am Clint, and today I am joined by a childhood friend of mine that we have discussed. So we have not seen each other in 20 years. How can you still be friends with me after that? Charles Jarrett. Charles, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Clint. It's great to be here, man. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
I think it has been 20 years.
That's crazy. I know we've done a little bit of catching up and talking, memories of the game we're going to cover today, as well as other games. And man, it's been great to catch up with you, get that trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
Glad you're here. We're going to talk about a game that, honestly, Hammy, who is not here, he's kind of busy with some work stuff. Hope he gets that done and doesn't get fired. But Hammy actually was forthcoming and said he actually didn't play this game that much. He played it more later in life, so whenever it was like at its peak, he really didn't play it that much. So he's missing that you're here and he's not, but he was pretty much going to hand the reins over to us anyway. So yeah, we're going to cover the original Killer Instinct for the SNES. So this is a game that come out in 94. Kind of between Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3. Kind of different, but kind of the same. What were your thoughts when it first came out?
Yeah, I think I remember playing this in the arcade.
Yeah.
At Aladdin's Castle in Gadsden.
Which, again, has been shut down for at least 20 years.
At least. And they stuffed it kind of back in the store.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an open window. They had Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 and a couple other fighting games and the popular games at the time. And this was a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of put it off in the back. But I remember specifically the graphics of this game. And I was trying to recall, I think this is the first arcade cabinet that had a disc drive.
Right.
Because they needed to have the space for the FMVs between the rounds. So full motion video, which was kind of new for the time for an arcade game.
Very new. And you can still see some of this in the Super Nintendo version. We're going to talk mostly Super Nintendo. We'll dabble a little bit in the arcade cabinet because, obviously during this time, arcades, they still look better than the home stuff.
Yeah.
But for a port for what it was, I thought it was really good.
Agreed.
They obviously can't bring everything forward. It's going to be a little choppy here, and the music's not going to transfer over. But I thought they did a very good job. It's your basic fighting game. There's no real story behind it other than you've got Ultra Corp is putting on a tournament.
Ultra Mega Corp.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Walmart is called and said, hey, let's have a fighting tournament. That's basically what's happened here. So the story is just it kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie.
We don't really know what the characters are or what they're doing. We have a little paragraph in the booklet and on the intro screen of what the characters are.
Right, and we're sitting here watching. Right here's Glacius. He's 6'3", 300 pounds, age unknown, an alien being from a distant planet crash landed on Earth. He was captured by Ultratech, hoping to prove the alien inferior. They forced Glacius to fight.
The end.
The end. And here's Jago. He's a Tibetan warrior monk. He calls on the power of the tiger to discover his destiny. I mean, you can kind of draw comparisons with these fighters with
Yeah.
some of the more well-known fighters from
Yeah.
your Mortal Kombats.
Yeah.
To me, Jago's kind of like that Liu Kang character.
That's right.
Now he doesn't hold the same place in Killer Instinct as Liu Kang does in Mortal Kombat. Because I think the winner, and I'm using air quotes there, of the first Killer Instinct tournament was TJ. I think it was Combo in the canon.
Maybe Orchid actually.
Really,
I thought it was
TJ Combo, but they had enough characters to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
But of course, you still kind of want to see more. And I know we touched on in our conversation earlier. We touched on Killer Instinct 2 or Killer Instinct Gold, where they added some more characters, and it looked better. But really, it's still a fighting game, and nothing really changed.
Yeah, nothing really practically changed other than the addition of a few characters and a couple of gameplay things. And
I don't think everybody returned in Killer Instinct 2.
No, we were missing. Who were missing? We were missing Cinder.
Cinder was one.
Thunder wasn't there.
Okay.
Who else?
Glacius was there. TJ was there. Orchid was there. Spinal was there. I'm drawing a blank here. Was Riptor there?
No, Riptor was not
okay.
there. We were missing 3.
So
plus, what was the
Idol?
Yeah, which is Gargus, and
it's Gargus in the
second
next one. So, I remember playing this game with you over at your house a lot, and we've kind of hashed this out off air, but I remember a lot of times where Jago was your guy because he was the ninja.
Yep.
He had all these really cool moves, and it really, to me, he was always the more complicated move set, because this was a game where they kind of introduced the combos kind of before Mortal Kombat, but kind of behind maybe Street Fighter.
Yep.
And the gameplay is a little bit different, but in order to start the combos, it's usually charge back, push forward, high kick, quick punch, whatever.
Yeah.
Or charge forward, go back, or roll from back to forward.
Yeah.
And Jago was one of those where you had to like start not left and not down, but kind of in between, and then roll up. And I never could get it. I hated Jago for that reason.
Yeah, we were talking before we came on, and the D-pad, especially on the Super Nintendo, was really difficult to complete some of these moves.
There we go. That way you're not breaking your back. Better?
Yeah, it was really difficult to complete some of the moves because it's absolutely right. You have to kind of start that half circle motion and then go back and forward. So it was really easy to do with a joystick,
right?
But not so much on a D-pad.
Well, and this was one of those, I really liked the game. And we talked about this earlier. I liked Killer Instinct's combos better than I liked Mortal Kombat 3's combos.
Yeah.
Because Mortal Kombat 3's combos, it seemed like you had to run. So you're looking at holding a shoulder button. In arcade, it probably works, but on the home ports, not so much. So you're having to hold run to run at them to start,
Yeah, you couldn't even initiate a combo without doing that.
No. Where like in Mortal Kombat 2, if you try to do any kind of like juggling combos, it was way easier. You had Kitana with her fan blade, she'd lift you up and you kind of do the little square punch over and you kind of juggle them that way. But Killer Instinct was one of those where it was a simpler way of doing the combos. So I thought that was kind of revolutionary in that aspect. And it was kind of one of those things that fighting games took on going forward as well.
That's right.
All fighting games are just kind of borrowed from everybody else.
Yeah, very true.
Kind of like coaching, you don't come up with your own thing in coaching. You just kind of borrow what everybody does and do it your own self.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is. This is here. So, the characters, again, it's not really anything to write home about. They've got some iconic ones like Spinal. Spinal's a skeleton. I mean,
that's it. With a shield.
With a shield that will absorb all your stuff and give you combo breakers. And that's another thing, the combo breakers. So if you start in on a combo, everybody can do a combo and everybody can do a combo breaker. So if you can get, the indicator to show up where you can do the combo breaker, if somebody's doing a combo on you, you can do the breaker and stop the combo and go on the offensive immediately.
That was the first thing I actually remember about the game specifically, other than the visuals,
Mhm.
was the combo breaker
Right.
announcement, right? When the arcade game was new, they had this thing, volume was jacked up
Oh yeah,
like
and
crazy,
every time,
and you can hear it no matter where you were.
combo break, yeah.
Exactly.
And I thought, again, we're talking more of the SNES port. I thought that the sound,
Mhm.
not just the music. We'll touch on the music because
Yeah.
the music's awesome.
Yeah.
But just the sound, a lot of games during this time, it's kind of muffled. You can't really tell what they're saying. You could pick up Combo Breaker.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
can pick up, the names of the characters. Fight on the combos. You've got your 3-hit, your 4-hit, your 5-hit combos all the way up to like 12, 14 hits. And then you got your
All the
ultras,
ultras. Yeah.
and ultimates where they're just, it's just like you said, it's loud, and it just really gets you into a game where you're kind of looking at it and like, I don't really have anything in this game.
Yeah.
You're just kind of you're watching it, you're seeing the visuals, you're like, man, it looks great, but what makes me care about these characters?
Yeah, not a lot.
Nothing at all. But I thought Rareware, because it was still Rareware at this time, I thought they kind of knocked it out of the park here.
Yeah.
Going back to some of the gameplay, I thought this was, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first game of the time that I think where it had the dual life bars. So you don't have rounds like you do in Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter.
Yeah.
You have a life bar. When it goes out, there's just a real quick reset.
Yes.
And then you go into your second life bar. Once the second life bar is gone, you're done. That's it. It's the end of the round.
Yeah, some of the first SNK games, I think King of Fighters
Right.
and a couple of those may have had those
Mhm.
ideas, but it wasn't certainly on the mainstream
Sure.
because Neo Geo, the platform, really wasn't that popular.
And it still isn't.
And still isn't. And Super Nintendo brought this kind of to the forefront with Killer Instinct because everything was round based. But this was a new idea to get kind of quickly reset. And there's a little bit of advantage, disadvantage to both of those things.
There are, and we discussed it where it's kind of funny where if you're in a dogfight with somebody and you're both one hit, well, if player A hits player B goes down, life bar resets. Then player B hits player A, then it's like knock him down, life bar has to reset.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there can be some lull in between, but still, for the combo aspect, for the reset aspect, you still get through a round very quickly.
Yeah, I think the design of the game itself and the gameplay was meant to be fast. So the combos are quick. You can initiate them quickly. The motions even of the animations are quick. So I think that was their goal in doing that. And accomplished it for the most part.
For the most part. And you look at the buttons too. You have your fierce and your medium kicks and punches, but then you also have quick too. So I mean they have a good variety of how the attacks were accomplished. And then we were talking about the combos. It can be as simple or as abstract as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Now growing up, you were always going to try to get that 12 hit no matter what.
Always, yeah.
And that's usually when a Super Nintendo controller went flying and got thrown on the ground. So if my mother is listening to this, which I don't think she is, but if my mother's listening to this, you can blame Charles for my temper tantrums with my controllers.
Yep. Those things took a beating, and they kept
were heat
on.
takers.
Yeah, they were.
I remember several games. I remember several games that happened to, but the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 controllers I had did not do that. They would not stand up to it. We're here in the studio. We say studio, it's just an extra room we have here at the house. But Charles and I were going through, everything that's here on the display, and I just remembered that is my original PlayStation. Well, that is actually the original PlayStation controller. So,
is it really?
Yes. So it's pre.
Oh, it is. You're right.
DualShock.
Yeah, sure enough.
And for a long time until I got those wireless ones for the PlayStation 2. It's the only way I had playing PlayStation games.
What year did you get that one?
I got that in 96, 97, roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
Because mom got me and Amanda, my sister, the Nintendo, and then she got me the Sega, and then she told me from then on out she's not buying any more game systems.
Yeah.
So I got the PlayStation in lieu of the 64 because it was way cheaper.
Yeah.
So my aunt actually got me the PlayStation, and after that, I've bought every game system after that. So
it was like $199 when it came out, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was crazy cheap. And then the 64 was, well, it might have been $199 too, but I want to say I paid like my aunt paid like $169 for the PlayStation.
Okay.
But see, the games were way cheaper.
They were. Yeah.
And it seemed
$70 a pop, no matter on the 64.
Right. It didn't matter if it was a racing game or a fighting game or one that took 3 minutes to beat or one that took 30 hours to beat. It was $65.
Yeah.
Whereas with the PlayStation, it was 35, maybe $40. And then they had their greatest hits too. So after they've been out and they sold how many copies, it's $20.
Yeah.
And this was the heyday of used games, and really before GameStop, we'd go to the flea market. Sure. And go buy games, for $5-6 a pop.
Yeah.
I still remember those kind of memories. But getting back onto Killer Instinct, let's kind of run through the characters real quick, because most everybody kind of knows the Mortal Kombat guys, and I keep going back to Mortal Kombat because that's the mainstay fighting game, that and Street Fighter, and I wasn't really a Street Fighter guy. How are you on the Street Fighter? Were you more Mortal Kombat or more Street Fighter?
Mortal Kombat for sure. Yeah, we played Championship Edition Street Fighter 2 probably a lot, but after that, really not much.
Well, see, I think the blood and the violence is kind of what brought everybody to the Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, because even today Street Fighter still doesn't do fatalities or blood, or it's pure fighting for what it is. It's still pure fighting. But yeah, going through the characters. So you've got, let's go with Jago. We'll go ahead and knock him out. He is a very short ninja.
He is.
Because it said he was 5'6".
5'6". Wow.
He's masked, got his sword, does all his ninja kicks and flips, and he's got a energy ball he can fly out too. So just
very Street Fighter like,
right?
Ryu and Ken,
right?
Like.
And he kind of, like I said earlier, he kind of reminds me in a way of Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Then you've got Orchid, or Black Orchid, and she's a spy, I believe is what her backstory is. She's trying to take down Ultratech. She kind of reminds me of Sonya Blade a little bit. She kind of morphs into this tiger, that can kind of jump at you, I guess, for lack of a better term. And she's got this little disc thing that she throws at you too. Yeah. But she's very acrobatic. She does this kick flip thing where she spins around on her hands. And before I get too far, the fatality, they did have fatality. They weren't near as gruesome as the Mortal Kombat fatalities were. Yeah. There was a little bit of blood, not near what Mortal Kombat had. So they were kind of that in between. So Street Fighter didn't have anything. Killer Instinct had a little bit. And then, of course, Mortal Kombat was what Mortal Kombat was. I think
that was what they were going for ultimately, is kind of an amalgamation of the Street Fighter and the Mortal Kombat.
With the big words.
That was a big word. And they actually did a good job. So the combos that they have in this game, fairly new, the new idea, combo breaker, especially the new idea. But taking some of those, as every fighting game series does, and mushing them together.
Right. So Jago, he has a couple of fatalities. I'm going to go back to Jago for a minute. He's got one, obviously the easy one. He's got a sword. He's stab with a sword. You're
That's
dead.
It. Yep.
Okay. The other one, which made no sense, he kind of goes into this like meditation pose, and his eyes flash and a car falls.
Oh, I don't remember this.
You don't remember that one? I have to show it to you. But yeah, it was kind of odd. Like I said, he kind of does this little cross leg thing and kind of does this whole meditation, and his eyes flash and a car falls on you.
Interesting. Okay.
So Orchid, she has one where, she's got her two. One of them, she will open up her top away from the camera and flash you. And I guess everything just looks so great you just fall over. I don't know. I mean, you got to think this is 1994. It's not 2021. It's a little different then. And then the other one was she kind of cursed you and made you into a frog. And she jumped on. You don't remember?
I don't remember
this?
that one either.
Oh my goodness! Because that one was on the Game Boy version. Where because it's called Frog Stomp, I believe. Anyway, she turned you to a frog and she'd jump on you and splatter you.
Yeah.
Going to other, you got Chief Thunder, whose backstory is a lot like Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero, at least in the second Mortal Kombat, was trying to find his brother.
Yeah.
And this is the same case with Chief Thunder.
Was it Eagle something?
We'll say it is just for conversation's sake. But
there was a comic book that accompanied this too, right? At some point.
Yes, I think Acclaim maybe came out with a comic book for this for a little bit. It was a very short run, and again, they were trying to get you kind of to understand and relate to these characters and care about these characters. I still don't think they did a good job.
Nope.
Thunder had 2 tomahawks, so everything he did was like a tomahawk spin, and he had this like fiery headband, not a headband. It's kind of an Indian feather mohawk looking thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, he kind of headbutts you and it kind of bladed you up, so that was kind of neat. And then his two finishers, one was he would call down lightning and it would strike you.
Remember that.
And I want to say the other one was like he'd hit you and you just kind of hit the screen. I might be wrong on that.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
So, so that was Thunder. That's 3. You had TJ Combo, who's a former boxer, kind of reminds me of Jax from Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
His backstory was he was a world champion and got disbarred because he hit people too hard. Like, what is that? You hit people too hard, so you're not the boxing champion anymore. So he's trying to prove that he's, better than everything and everybody by entering this tournament. TJ's very, very boxer-esque. Now he'll use a rising knee raise.
Yeah.
To kind of start up a combo, of course, with a rolling thing, and then some twist, back fist kind of stuff too. So, he would one of his fatalities was he would break your neck, and then the other one was he just beat you to death.
Yeah.
So, who else? Glacius. Glacius was always one of those kind of I really wanted to like him kind of character. So that was the one I probably related to the most. But I really love me some Spinal. I really did.
Yeah.
But Glacius was an alien. We covered that a little bit with everything here. Glacius was an alien. He's kind of takes on the form of water and ice.
Right.
And he does this whole melty thing.
The melty thing into the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And he'd come up. So he'd go down in the ground, and he had several different ones. He had one that was close. He had one that was medium range. He had one that was far range.
Yeah.
And he would go underground and go towards you and come up and uppercut you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like your traditional uppercut that everybody knows from Mortal Kombat.
Right.
But really it's more of a finisher for a combo than anything else.
That's right. Yeah, the juggle move at the end of a combo.
Right. And I will say, sir, you still remember the juggle move because you whipped my butt using Glacius a little earlier.
Yeah, that's one that you can do for the initiator of a combo.
Right.
So he goes into the puddle move and he comes up, but doesn't initiate a juggle. It can just start a combo, but then you can juggle after the fact when you're up in the air.
Right. And see, I think that was kind of a new thing too, was juggling.
Yeah.
When you got air combos, but then you've also got the juggle part too. So I think, again, this was very, very innovative for the different styles of fighting. Glacius had in the arcades, he had 3 different fatalities, but on the SNES, he had 2. One was an ice spear, and the other one was, it's weird. It's like an ice melt. So he would melt like he would do when he's going to come and uppercut you, but the puddle would go underneath you.
Oh, that's right.
And then you
get
like sink into the puddle,
yeah.
into the puddle, or melt into the puddle. I can't remember which one it actually looks like, but okay, it works.
Sure, it
you
works.
here, drown in my puddle, then I'm going to come back. It's like
Where does
you're
the puddle go?
inside of him, and and that's actually what the third one is. He goes underneath, and you fall in, and he comes up, and you're like inside this big sheet of ice, and you're trying to fight your way out.
Oh yeah.
So again, it's very cheesy,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Spinal, we covered him a little bit. He is a skeleton creature with a sword and a shield.
And a bandana.
And a cool bandana, yeah, and glowy eyes.
Yeah.
I
think they attempted to make him the mascot, especially on the SNES port, right?
He was on the SNES port, but they still recognize Fulgore, the robot, as being the mascot for the arcade because he's on the side.
He's
of the
on
arcade.
The cabinet, yeah.
Yeah. Spinal is kind of a cross between Scorpion and Shao Tsung a little bit, or Shang Tsung, my bad.
Yeah.
Because he would shoot the fireball, the flaming skulls at you, which is kind of like Shao Tsung's or Shang Tsung. My gosh, fireballs that he would use in Mortal Kombat. But then you got the skeletons. That's automatically a kind of a throwback to Scorpion in a way.
Yeah.
He was the one that could absorb a lot of the energy stuff and have really easy multiple combo breakers.
Yeah.
I remember playing against you as Spinal when I was really good at the game. And you would get so upset with me.
Break all my combos
because I'd break all your combos using Spinal. And as we say, Spinal's coming up here.
He's 2,600 years old.
Wow.
I did not know that.
5'5", discovery and cell regeneration from Ultratech. So that's kind of his backstory there. Moving forward, Saberwolf. And it's funny that we bring up Saberwolf. There's an NES game called Saberwolf from Rare. So I wonder if that is kind of
has to be.
It's got to be, because Rare's really good at doing that. They'll bring that kind of stuff into some of these games and bring it forward. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Orchid is too, but don't hold me to that. I know Saberwolf is.
Yeah.
But Saberwolf is a werewolf. I mean, again, you kind of go into kind of cheesy fighting characters. I mean, he is. One of his moves, he makes a bat come out, an energy bat.
Energy bat.
I don't make the game. It doesn't make sense, but it's still pretty fun. He does this rolling thing with his claws and backspin with his claws, and of course he tries to bite you as well. His two fatality, they're not called fatality. They call them no mercy instead of a fatality, because I guess fatality is trademarked,
probably,
possibly. His was stabbing you with his hand because he's got sharp claws. And the other one was he would uppercut you toward the screen. So again, very generic.
Yep.
But it was a way to finalize the fight, saying, "Hey, look, I beat you, and this is the result." One of my favorites whenever I first started playing the game was Cinder.
Yes.
Cinder is an ex-convict that Ultratech has kind of manipulated and turned him into a flaming ball of fire.
It's amazing.
Again,
it's a good backstory.
I mean, hey, you're a convict. What else are you going to do? Let me turn you into a fire guy. I don't really know who I would. I mean, I guess Cinder's got a little bit of Scorpion because of the fire, but I don't really know who else Cinder would really remind me of.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty unique character. I remember
not unique enough to be in the second one.
I know, right? I'm not sure why they didn't carry that over, because he was really popular character.
Yeah, and to me, and again, we'll get into the music a little bit later. I thought that he had the best stage music because it was kind of this rock theme in the background. He had two no mercies as well. One of his was he would melt you.
Yeah.
And the other one was he would burn you up and turn you into ashes. So I mean, they fit.
Yeah.
But still, it's part of the norm. What everything else here is.
Yeah.
Another one here that was kind of iconic, but didn't move forward with the rest of the series until the reboot was Riptor. Riptor is a velociraptor.
He's a velociraptor. How they list the weights here? He was like 700 pounds or something.
Yeah, he was like 7 foot something too. But he's 7'7" when he stands up on his back legs, and the other time he's kind of hunched over, like you see in the Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah.
So It's so funny.
It's
They
a
made
funny
a
one,
game
yeah.
about this, and
Yeah.
this game was so popular that they made not only a sequel, but they even did a reboot on the Xbox One, and people still play this game. I don't get it.
With the Velociraptor.
With the Velociraptor. His two was he would shoot an energy ball at you and you would melt, and then the other one was he would eat you. So Riptor is kind of like that. Reptile.
Yeah, that's right. Might be my least favorite in this game.
Okay, I could see. I'm not a fan. It's hard for me to play with Fulgore, and we'll get to Fulgore here in just a sec. It's hard for me to play with Fulgore just because his move set is hard.
Yeah.
To me, it's easier than Jago, but it's a lot of misdirection. So it's a lot of back, forward, back.
Right.
That kind of stuff. But yeah, I could see that because Riptor, his move sets, it's all combo openers, and that's it. There's no like swinging a sword or he's got an energy ball, but it doesn't seem to really connect very well.
Yeah.
Everything is like spring forward with my talons and try to do it, but in this game everybody blocks. So
that's right.
That's what happens in combo games, I guess.
Yeah, and going back to the speed, I think he just felt slow. I think
he did feel slow.
I think that's why.
And I mean, that's a very good point because I mean, you're talking about a fast game that's very fast paced, and it's hard to get going with. Because I played with him a little earlier before you had gotten here, just to give myself a little bit of time with him and see what we could come up with. So I think we've covered everybody except for Fulgore. Now, Fulgore is a robotic prototype. He's what Ultra Tech is actually designing. They're wanting to make everybody into robots, and he's serial number 1.
Yeah.
So again, very, very generic. And he has this kind of plasma claw thing that he can lead with. That's kind of his opener. He has lasers that come out of his eyes.
Yeah.
And of course, like he's got some boosters and stuff. So he's heavy and he plays heavy, but
plays a little slow.
At times he's kind of clunky, but he can play fast at times too.
Yeah.
So
the opener of the sliding laser claw thing, that feels fast,
right?
But jumping around, especially if you're evading,
right,
feels a little slow.
When he and they do a good job with it, making him feel as heavy as he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
so like
that's
when
right.
he jumps,
exactly right.
You really feel, you hear it obviously audibly, but when he hits the ground, he feels heavy. Like it takes him a minute to kind of get back going.
Yeah.
His 2 fatalities was he would remove his head and a machine gun would pop out.
Yeah.
He would shoot you.
Right.
And then the other one was he would laser you to death.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Again, very, very generic, but very, hey, that's the end of the match, and you're not going to come back from this. So, not as innovative as the Mortal Kombat fatalities were or ended up being.
Yeah,
but still good ways to finish it out. So, another cool thing, Mortal Kombat had the friendship where everybody had a different friendship. They give you a flower, they'd sign an autograph, they make a rainbow come up, give you a present, whatever. Killer Instincts, their version of the friendship was the humiliation.
Right.
So the humiliation was you put in your button combination and they just make you dance. Like a disco ball would drop down and you just have to dance.
Just generic across everyone.
Yeah, right? and everybody kind of did the same dance. And I almost forgot, they actually had some stage fatalities in this.
That's right.
I know Cinder had one.
Yeah.
They had there's one in Orchid's level where you're on top of a building and you can fall off the building.
Right.
There's one on Spinal. Spinal's like on top of a castle. You can fall off into the moat.
Yeah.
And then there's a Sky Arena. And that's probably the best looking arena on the game because it's very psychedelic in a way. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in the background for a Super Nintendo game.
Right.
But you can fall off of it too. And I think the stage fatalities can happen at any point. If you get too close to the edge and they knock you off, you can die with a full bar of health.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
Anything, I mean, is there anything I'm missing? I mean, obviously you had the ultra combos.
Yeah.
Ultras were a good way as a quick button combination in the middle of a combo. So you had to have a long combo to make it work.
Yeah.
But the ultra would get up to 20, 30 hits.
Yeah.
And it's just basically you just beat the crap out of your opponent until they just can't pick up anymore.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Who's your favorite Ultra? I know you're going to say Jago, but anything really?
Yeah, I think Combos was probably my favorite because it was the longest animation
Right.
sequence and most hit count.
Okay.
So if I remember, we might have to look it up, but I think it was 45 hits.
Oh, wow.
Something like that.
Okay.
So probably my favorite Ultra was him because it was super easy to execute.
Mhm.
You go into the rolling on the floor
Right.
deal when you're in the red state of your second life bar.
Mhm.
And then it's just another one of those to initiate the Ultra, and then you're in it for 45
See,
hits.
looking at you, remembering all that junk.
I don't know how this comes back. I don't have a clue.
Well, it does. It certainly does. Like I said, you kicked my butt several times, and the few times that I beat you, I was just pushing buttons. So, yeah, I tell you the one that I think I really liked the most as far as the Ultras go was Glacius, because he would really do that going
the puddle
up,
thing.
the puddle thing. I think it was 3
times.
hits, and then even after you did the Ultra and got how many ever hits it was, and you can make the hits go up if you did it like in a 12 hit combo, did the combination, then did the Ultra right after it.
Right.
So it could actually kind of fluctuate a little bit. But he would finish with 3 of those puddle uppercuts.
Yeah.
And if you were good enough to do it, you could keep juggling.
Keep going, yeah.
And I've seen people get like 6 or 7 afterwards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it takes a lot of skill. But
yeah.
that was probably
That's
one of my
cool
favorite ones.
Yeah.
To me, Spinal is kind of the iconic character in this.
Yeah.
Nothing special about him. There's nothing special about any of these folks. But to me, if you say pick one character from Killer Instinct, it's going to be Spinal.
Yeah.
I feel like
I remember him from the cover of Killer Cuts in the box of SNES.
Let's get into Killer Cuts. So we were discussing this before we come on the air. So Nintendo Sound is what Nintendo Sound is, and you described that this was possibly one of the first arcade cabinets that had a hard drive.
Yeah.
And the music, they had it up loud, and they had the voiceovers and everything else. But the music, the
music was so good.
it really fit. You had this kind of canyon-esque Indian thing with thunder.
Yeah.
You had this really rocked out theme with Cinder. You had this like really castle theme with Saberwolf and even with Spinal as well. So, I mean, they did really well, but they couldn't bring the sound from the arcade to the sound in the Super Nintendo. So when you bought this game new, they included a CD, which CDs were still kind of new at the time as well. But they included a CD of all the songs from the game
with the original quality.
Yes.
Right? CD quality.
And they called it Killer Cuts. And I remember playing this game, and we'd mute the TV and we just play Killer Cuts in the background. Just really, I mean, your mom would come in there and get onto us because we're too loud. Yeah. And then, of course, you're throwing your controller too. But, we've got it up loud and we're hearing all this stuff. And it was so good. And little poor Clint back in the day did not have a CD player. And this is really before CD players were really, really popular.
Yeah, really prevalent.
And this is a time when we couldn't burn a CD either. So I remember asking you, you had gotten some blank tapes and made me a tape of this.
Yeah.
And I remember going to a field trip to the aquarium up in Chattanooga, listening to this with my little Walkman tape player. And I'm sitting there chilling out, playing Killer Instinct on my Game Boy and listening to Killer Cuts, just thinking, man, this can't get any better in the world. This is awesome.
It was a really, really good soundtrack. And you hit it on the head because it was so pertinent to every character's level. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even the iconic intro and the character selection screen, really, really well done. Yeah. But we played that CD.
I'm surprised. Do you still have it? Do you think you still have it, or you think it's long gone?
It could be in a box somewhere. I don't know.
That'd be awesome if you could find the original one. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if you have a streaming service, specifically, I know that it's on Spotify because I have Spotify.
I have to look this up.
So Spotify, most new games now, they have their own soundtrack. Well, when they re-released Killer Instinct, they made its own soundtrack, but they also included with it the original Killer Cuts. And it'll say it on there, original quality, original theme or whatever. So you can actually go and listen to this now if you have some sort of streaming service. Of course, it's online as well. I'm sure YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's on YouTube. except this show. But yeah, the sound in this, I was so happy whenever I found this on Spotify just a couple
Oh
months
yeah,
ago.
I'm gonna have to look it up and
Because
relive the soundtrack.
just randomly, I'll listen to, you know, Mortal Kombat sounds. I'll listen to the Killer Instinct soundtrack now. I'll listen to a lot of the Halo stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really into the sounds, just because you kind of like you do with video game. Video games, in a sense, can be not mind numbing.
Right.
So you're sitting, you're playing, you're playing, but you're really listening to the sound. You're just kind of immersed in it. Well, I'll play these songs, you know, these albums and stuff in the background while I'm at work. I'm just sitting there working. Before you know it, I've worked 4 or 5 hours and,
Sure.
you know, felt like I've gotten a ton done because I'm just immersed because
Right.
I'm listening to the song more
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of I guess how I'm programmed. I get made fun of, get called a nerd all the time, but you know, it works for me, and that's how I kind of zone out and get my work done. So
Yeah, for sure.
I did mention that I had this for Game Boy.
Yeah.
Game Boy, it is what it is again. And I feel like I've said that a ton of times, but it was really good for a black and white 8-bit version of the game. They brought the music as well as they could over. They brought the graphics over as well as they could. They did not have Cinder, and they did not have Riptor. So that could be kind of a lead in why they didn't make it over to the new one. You were able, now in the SNES version, if you pick Cinder and do a certain button combination, I think it's hold the shoulders, hold the faces at the verse screen, you can turn into Idol.
Okay.
Who is the main boss.
Right.
And the backstory on him is Ultratech has found a way into another dimension, and he's kind of the gatekeeper. So they made him the boss of the tournament.
Got it.
It works, whatever. In the Game Boy port, you could pick anybody and do the combination at the verse screen. You just automatically become Idol.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to bring up Idol for one reason. Now, when you played with him in Super Nintendo, he's just like every other character. He's got a limited number of hits for his combos, just like everybody else does. In the game, when you're playing as him or playing against him, he does this stupid recharge thing. And I've seen you get so ticked off,
so mad,
because you'd almost have him, and he'd get a combo.
Oh yeah,
because when he'd swing, he kind of club you like a golf club, get you way up in the air.
That's right.
Then all of a sudden, blip, 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 blip. He's charging up in the back. Then you just see his little bar go up, and you're just like, I can't beat him. I can't beat him. His bar's going all the way up, and you can't gain any.
Yeah, the speed again of the game, I think it's hindered by the final boss, and that you have that recharge capability,
right?
And it takes at least 5 times the normal match, to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you think Shao Kahn with Mortal Kombat, you know, especially in 2 and even 3 to a certain extent, or even the reboot. Gosh almighty, I remember in the reboot for 360 having hella trouble trying to get through him. But same thing with here. I mean, final boss supposed to be a final boss. But yeah, if you played as Idol, you know, there's magazines and stuff back in the day that told you how to do his combos. Well, in the Game Boy version, he was, you know, now you're going from 6 hit buttons to 2, but he was very, very simple. And I remember one time getting over 200 hits with Idol just in a regular combo. And I've tried to replicate it on Super Nintendo. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
But it's like charge back, push forward. So he does this little shoulder charge thing.
Right.
And you just wail on A and B and just wail on it as fast as you can. I can just sit here and talk to you, you know, and just sit here and press the buttons. And then if maybe the input doesn't read it just right or what, but he'll just go until you just can't push.
Can't do it anymore. That's awesome.
So he was always a really good cheat to get through.
Yeah.
There are, speaking of cheats in this game, you can kind of do a stage select. And that's where that sky pyramid thing kind of comes in. I think that's the only time I ever played it was with you. When we were, you know, I think both controllers had to hold down and Y at the same time.
I think
sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but for the most part, you know, you could kind of select where you wanted to. It's almost the prelude to, was it Mortal Kombat 2 or Mortal Kombat 3? I think it was 2, when in between the matches you could do the little code. You had the 3 buttons you had to push.
Yeah.
And if this side got it right and this side got it right, we
Yeah.
could have like 1-hit kills.
Yeah, that was 3.
Okay.
They introduced that in 3.
It's kind of like that, but just in a sense that both controllers have to do something
Yeah.
at the same time. Because
Right.
we would say to go 3, 2, 1 hit.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't.
Right.
You can also increase the speed of the game at the verse screen. I have to look up exactly what the code is, but basically you're putting in a code at the front side of the screen to go from your normal speed to like hyper speed. So for as fast as the game can play, it can actually play faster.
Yeah, for the difficulty levels too. I think we have easy, medium, hard in the selection.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even make it past the second stage. TJ, he gave me a run for it on easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this is not a game for the faint of heart. I mean, this is probably the first one I remember a practice session in, because it actually has that practice session that you can do. But this is really the first one I can remember that you had to do the practice session, because your timing and how you push the buttons and everything else, it mattered in this. You know more than anybody else, because if it didn't hit just right with Jago, you were throwing a controller.
Oh, it was over. Yeah, the preciseness that you needed to have, and the intricacies of some of the moves from the D-pad perspective, it really added another dynamic to the gameplay, especially with the computer, because they're blocking all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
All the time. Well, and that was one of the things too, is this is the game where it kind of, to me anyway, introduced holding back to block.
Right. And
again, this is one of those things I think that kind of went, that's how it was moving forward. Mortal Kombat had, a block button that you actually had to hit.
Right.
This one you just kind of held back. You didn't really move backwards. You could jump backwards, but you couldn't really move backwards. It was always blocked.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I still, there's something about this game, and I think it's, Thunder was 280 and 42.
Yeah.
Wow. So apparently this tournament happens year after year, because that's when Thunder's brother went missing. Saberwolf is 45 and 400 pounds. Wow.
Interesting.
And he's got a disease, and he's fighting the tournament to get the cure for the disease. So, right. I mean, they try to make you kind of connect with these characters in some way, but I mean, if they connect with the characters the way they should have, this game would have had 10 sequels by now.
I think it would. I think you're right. I think it's the missing piece to this, because gameplay wise, introduced to a lot of novel things, but the characters just don't stand the test of time. You look at someone like Scorpion or Sub-Zero.
Combo was stripped of his title when he was found to be using cybernetic arms.
Oh, funny.
Okay.
That definitely paints the Jax.
560. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jax comparison. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying you don't see a Scorpion or a Sub-Zero's backstory, as simple as they were, even in 1 and 2, that can match what we have in Killer Instinct.
No. Like I said, to me, you could have said this is Walmart putting on a fighting tournament, and it would have been the same thing.
Right.
So, so moving forward, because I think we're kind of done with the game. One thing about this game that really stood out, I think this is the only game, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you know of any different, this is the only game where the cartridge was black.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was the only one.
Everything else was gray. Now I've got a red one there that's Maximum Carnage, but I think every other one was black. And it seems like they might have done a special edition Donkey Kong Country that was yellow.
There was a yellow one, yes.
And I know 64, Donkey Kong 64 was yellow.
Yeah.
But then most every cartridge for the 64 was a different color anyway.
Yeah.
But this is the only one that I can remember that was black.
Same. Yeah.
So
same.
that was very neat. Moving forward, they made another game, Killer Instinct 2 for the arcade, kind of the same deal. Come out in arcade. It was, pretty successful, especially after the first game. So they made a sequel for it, and it didn't quite get to Super Nintendo, so they put it out on the 64. I remember the arcade version and I might be wrong, was the arcade? No, it was Killer Instinct 2 that was for Ultra 64, Nintendo Ultra 64.
Yeah, this is an interesting history for this game too, because that was the original Killer Instinct. So
Right.
the cabinet that they designed, this was Rare and Midway.
Mm-hmm.
The Ultra 64 hard disk drive that was
Right.
supposed to be what ultimately ended up becoming
Nintendo 64.
Nintendo 64. Some of the hardware ideas were based in this game,
In the original. Okay.
Killer Instinct. Yeah.
Okay. I remember playing the second one, and I didn't play a whole lot of arcade games, but I do remember the second one saying that it was only for the Ultra 64. Like in the voiceover, it was saying that only for the Ultra 64.
Yeah.
And then that was the thing, when Nintendo 64 was being rumored at the time, it was everybody thought it was going to be Ultra 64, Ultra 64,
Right.
Ultra 64.
Yep.
Well, then it turned out just to be just the Nintendo 64, and it stuck. I mean, and it, history is what it is. But so they made the second one, changed up the boss a little bit, added characters, took some away, and the game just went away after that. I don't understand that. I don't know.
There were all these rumors about KI3 for years
Right.
and years and years. And ultimately, they have a newer port that was 2013, right?
Yes, the newer port was 2013. What happened was Rare was acquired by Microsoft, so it's strictly a Microsoft studio now, which is funny because Rare is the one that headed up the GoldenEye, and they also headed up Donkey Kong. They are the ones, the masterminds behind making Donkey Kong Country come forward the way it was with those rendered graphics the way it is. So it was always this like, hey, who really owns Donkey Kong? Because Donkey Kong is a Nintendo property, but the game itself was made by Rare. So, and that's where you kind of get into the weeds a little bit about them making a classic console for the Nintendo 64,
right?
Because a lot of these companies aren't around anymore. Now you've got your Mario, you got Mario 64, Mario Kart, you got Star Fox. Okay, well, where does Donkey Kong fall in that? Where does Diddy Kong Racing fall in that? Where does Perfect Dark is Rare? Where does that fall into? Because it's Microsoft and it's Nintendo now. Yeah. So
all of the licensing just muddies the waters so much.
Well, and that's one of the things that's crazy to me is you can't find a new port of Sonic 3 because of that.
Right.
Because of the music and the Michael Jackson stuff and the licensing. You can't find a new port of it.
Yeah.
Everything that
the Christian Whitehead releases even.
Yeah,
right? He
didn't do it.
Yeah.
He's got one, he's got two, he's got CD.
Yeah.
And I think that, and then of course he did Mania, or he was the lead designer in Mania. But they haven't touched Spinball, they haven't touched 3, and they haven't touched Sonic and Knuckles just because of licensing stuff.
It's crazy.
And I think that's why we'll never get a classic Nintendo 64 console.
Right.
Is because of all the licensing stuff. So, but that's kind of a rabbit trail that we went down there, or a pig trail rather. We call it pig trails here. So they re-released it, and they did it in stages to try to get you to. And I believe the game was free.
Was it? I haven't played these.
Okay. I'm pretty sure the game was free, at least up to a certain extent, and then you could buy like some DLC to get like unlock other characters and stuff. I know they put the Arbiter from the Halo series in there, so he's actually a playable character.
They have some of the original characters, right?
Yes, they have all the original characters. I think everybody's there, maybe minus Idol. I've not played through it enough to really give you a full review on it, but I know what's the boss from 2? Gargus, he's in there. And then Maya seems like she's in it from 2. I think Thunder's back. I think Riptor's back. I know Cinder's back. I know Saberwolf and TJ Combo are back. And like I said, they've added Battletoads are in it.
Okay.
I think there's a Battletoad in there because they're rare.
Yeah.
So they in Spinal, of course, because in Fulgore, because they're kind of the mascots of it. But they did a really good job of it. I don't know if you really kept up with the Mortal Kombat storyline after, say, 3 or 4.
A little bit on the reboot, the 09 reboot, maybe.
So I don't know if you know this or not, they killed Liu Kang in canon.
No.
Yeah. So he was actually a zombie character for a while.
Okay.
Well, they killed Jago in the reboot of this, like season 2 or season 3, however they did it. So he was like not a ghost, Shadow Jago.
Okay.
He was like the main bad guy in season 2 or something.
Sure.
So again, you can see some similarities, but even
sure.
even with somebody like, Microsoft behind it, you still can't really connect with these characters like you do the Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
guys.
exactly. I agree.
So,
good game, good gameplay, fast.
Even now, I mean, again, we don't really like to compare graphics here because you can't change the graphics from a Super Nintendo. You just can't. There's just no way. But for the most part, it holds up.
It does.
It's not really clunky. It's still pretty smooth. Now, there's characters that are clunky, but as far as the actual gameplay of it, it's still pretty smooth. It sounds just as amazing as I remember it.
Yep.
And in Killer Cuts, my goodness, if you get a chance, just go listen to Killer Cuts for a little bit, man. That's specifically the Saber Wolf, the Cinder, and the Orchid tracks.
I remember the Saber Wolf the most, I think.
With the kind of the organ kind of thing in the background. Yeah. I mean, and it screams straight up like Transylvania.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So, here in closing, Charles, it's been very good to catch up with you.
Hopefully
it's been great. Won't be 20 years going down.
Absolutely will not be.
We've got some other games coming up that we would like to do. And I'd love to have you back, man, because I know we played a lot of fighting games. I remember
we did,
a lot of the Mortal Kombat. That's kind of how you and I met.
Yeah.
I thought you were over on our property, and I was going to tell you to move when you were like jumping on a log trying to break it. So we went up there. I just walked up there, and the next thing I know, like I'm in your house, and we're playing Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey, I got Mortal Kombat 2." It's like, "Hey, I've never played it. Let's go play it."
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And then you're cutting my head off. So there's that, and that's how our friendship budded. But
it was.
Yeah, I look forward to bringing you back.
Anytime
if you want to come back,
of course.
We'll cover some other games. So we've been going for about an hour now. That's about the length of some of our podcasts. We've been known to go even longer if we go too far into it. But man, it's been great catching up with you. It's been great.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Clint.
Yeah, it's been great playing some Killer Instinct, some old school on original hardware Killer Instinct.
Original hardware. That's right.
And like I said, man, maybe we can get back really, really soon and do another game.
Absolutely.
So
looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and stay tuned for next week's episode. Thanks, guys.